Or no, we're thinking about skis and the little pom-pom hats. And for some areas, the winter season has already been in full swing in a big way. We look at the season-to-date snowfall for November 30th, 2022. So let's go back in time a year ago where we had 18.5 inches already in Spokane. We had 14.3 inches in Caribou. Buffalo had already had 3 feet of snow, and Marquette had already seen 40 inches of snow. Fast forward to this November 30th. Not nearly as much. Lesser amounts in places like Buffalo. Only 2.3 inches has fallen in the city. And I know you're like, but wait, wasn't there a huge lake effect this week? Yes, just not in Buffalo. Caribou has seen just over, or just under, 11 inches. Riverton, Wyoming, 19 inches thus far. But Spokane, compared to last year, way low. Less than 2 inches has fallen this season. So through November 30th, you can see Buffalo, Marquette, Bismarck, and Spokane all running significantly lower than they were this time last year. Now, does that spell what's to come for the season? Not necessarily, but obviously the month of November, much less snowy for a few select cities across the country. Who's seen their first snow? A lot of areas around the Great Lakes have already, but a lot of the Northeast hasn't yet. And for some of the Northeast, gosh, it's been a long time. The observed snowfall and the departures from average: Syracuse running low, Buffalo running low, Erie running low, other areas also running that deficit. But for some, it's been a years-long deficit when it comes to snow. The snow drought in the Northeast has been a long one. New York, you've gone 655 total days without a snowfall of or greater than 1 inch. The last time you had that was on February 13th. 2022. Philadelphia, it's been since January of 22, so 670 days without an inch of snow. And in Baltimore, it's been 671. You notice the little stars, the asterisk? Those are record streaks for those cities. So if you feels like you've been waiting a while, you have been waiting a while. And if you're happy about it, good for you, right? It's been good news. Boston, New York, Philly, D.C., the least snowy seasons. Last year was one of them. So the 2022-2023 season was the #1 least snowy season there in the New York metro area. For Philly, it was #2. For Washington, D.C. and Boston, Colleen, it was #4. So last year, we were really lacking snow. We'll see what this year can do.
And, you know, when we think of December, you're mostly thinking about...
So for more on this, we bring in a friend of the show, Dr. Alex Young, a NASA heliophysicist. Alex, always good to talk to you. Always good to see you. Let's talk about what the heck is going on with the sun right now.
All right. Well,
Hey, you know what? I didn't call you back. My phone wasn't working.
It was the sun.
Oh, well, backtracking just a little bit, how do you even begin to forecast these geomagnetic storms?
Well, it is
Solar Max, and we've heard a lot of chatter here about 2024 being a pretty active year. What do we know about this Solar Max, and what do we not know? Because you said there's a lot of questions over, but blob complications, it's a real thing. Dr. Alex Young, always love talking to a NASA heliophysicist, and again, friend to the show. We appreciate you joining us. Have a great weekend.
Wow, that just blows my mind.
Right?
But can you take the rest of the show? I got to go book my tickets to see the Aurora Borealis. So,
I thought you were going to say you had blob complications. We got a lot more coming up.
Maybe that too.
Well, it has been 14 months since Hurricane Ian, and still more than 80,000 Floridians are fighting for their insurance payouts. Well, today marks 6 months until the start of the next hurricane season. So the question on everyone's mind is in Florida, is the state ready for what next season might bring?
Yeah, and the Weather Channel's national correspondent Justin Michaels was in Florida in the immediate aftermath of Ian and has since gone back to bring us the stories of the slow and at times tedious process of rebuilding.
Well, and Alex and Colleen, it actually could not just be tedious, but also expensive as 2024 kicks in. If it hasn't been expensive enough already, there are two very ominous words that are describing pick a carrier with a solid record and a reputation. Also know your policy limits, know your deductible, talk to an insurance agent, any professional. In fact, he even said make your insurance agent your best friend if you live in Florida, and know your flood and wind coverage. An example he gave, it's a worst-case nightmare scenario. A neighbor of Jim's has been paying into his insurance there on Fort Myers Beach for, 2 decades or so, while he's been retired and owned his home. He's been paying for the wrong insurance. Ian hits, he wasn't insured, even though he's been paying for insurance the entire time because he had the wrong insurance. Know your policy limits and know what they are. He even said, you take your policy documents, 7,500 pages, sit down with your attorney. Let them go through it chapter and verse.
Honestly, it may be worth the money. I mean, the attorneys charge for their time, but having somebody look through it, Dr. Nab says all the time, make your insurance agent your best friend as well, because you want to make sure you've got the right policy, because that's a worst case scenario.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine paying an insurance policy all this time
and then you need it and it's not the right one?
And then they're like, oh, wait, no, actually, you've been paying wrong the whole time.
The whole time. Not just for like a year.
Right.
For decades.
So then you've been paying all this money to get nothing in return. Yeah, I mean, time is money is a saying, right? So spend the time to understand those policies.
And there are a few other variables. Again, the insurance rabbit hole is a deep one. And a few other variables as far as reinsurance and other things that do factor into whether or not there would be that hurricane tax. But the reality is, could we be one storm away? That is truly the reality.
Justin, you've been doing some great work.
Yes,
Thanks for,
thank you.
and hopefully people will hear this and then, fix any problems that they may have. We've got a lot more coverage continuing here on the Weather Channel. Hope you'll